Guys, welcome back to another episode of Rennch. On today's show, it's a banger. I have a huge announcement to make that you guys are gonna be like, wowza. You're probably gonna say wowza. And we are going to do a bunch of work on the Blasphemy build's cooling system. First and foremost, the announcement. I now have a kit, a plug and play kit for you to install a Subaru EZ30R flat 6 in your vintage 911 or 912, as long as they have a 901 or 915 transmission. The kit is called Lastern right here. And that basically stands for to blaspheme or to talk behind somebody's back, i.e., oh, that car is really cool, except it has a Subaru engine in it. Nah. Until you go, yeah, but it's got 300 horsepower and it's reliable and it sounds like a GT3 RS. Don't believe me? So yeah, that. If you are interested in said kit, the pricing is about the cost of if you went to buy a Porsche 3-liter engine or rebuild your crappy engine. It has been born from all of the technology I've learned in the Blasphemy build. There's a bunch of really cool bespoke things, including custom radiators from CSF that you literally can't buy anywhere else in the world. Stoked about that. Custom engine cradle that you bolt in or you weld up. My idea is that you get this big giant crate delivered to you at your house and you spend a weekend or a few days installing this thing. You take your old engine, you stick it in this crate, you roll it into your garage somewhere for later. You rebuild it or do whatever you want to do with your old engine. Maybe you don't have an old engine. Maybe you just have a transmission. You need a power plant. This is the perfect thing for you. Write me, wrench me at gmail.com if you are interested in said kit. I'll give you all the details and the pricing and that kind of thing. And don't worry, if you want to see how it all goes in, I got this for you. This modest 1976 Porsche 912E, all 90 horsepower of it, is Lastern 1. This is the first Subaru engine swap going into essentially a customer car. So I'm going to take you guys along for the entire ride on the build. If you are on the fence about wanting one of these setups, not only are we going to do the Subaru swap, but we're also adding some SC flares in the back of this thing and doing a full long hood backdate, which will be super exciting. I've never done one before, but I've got to re-weld the front panel and do a bunch of other fun stuff to make this thing look like our beloved 69 to 73 911s. It's getting suspension, it's getting brakes, it's getting wheels and tires. This thing is going to be a complete and utter change and super badass when it's done. So there'll be an entirely new video thread on this car and the conversion of the Subaru EZ30R. Hey Ben, what do you think, pal? Yes, I know. You're so excited. Into this rad little 1976 912E. Now, if you are one of the first 3 people that want this kit, I'm offering a $3,000 discount. And that's because I got to work out all the growing pains. I've got to build crates and do all kinds of things to make sure the experience is as seamless and amazing as you'd all want it to be. So you'll be the guinea pigs, you'll be the beta testers of the kit. But the plan for me is that this thing arrives on your doorstep from the freight company, you open it up and everything is all completely sorted so you can just go step by step by step and install it in your vintage 911. Super cool. I'm so excited to finally get something on paper for this. So again, email me, wrenchme@gmail.com if you are interested in becoming one of my beta testers. Now, on to today. I don't have a lot of like water-cooled engineering background, so when it comes to terminating some of the things at the end of the engine here, I get a little confused. I knew that there had to be a couple of radiators and they had to go from the engine and then back to the engine, but I was really unsure on how to route everything. You know, this engine is not something I'm super familiar with, so I've done a lot of trial and error, a lot of bothering people that know a lot more than I do, and I've come up with what I think is the right routing for my cooling system. So what I've done already is I've basically connected the lines that come from the rear bulkhead up here along the right side of the engine, and then underneath, out of the engine, into a water pump that I've fabricated a mount for, and then down into the radiators, through each radiator, back, and then into basically the bottom of the engine. And that is the basic circuit. And then I'm gonna take what was the back side that used to feed the heater and run a radiator overflow tank in the engine compartment next to the intercooler. So all that's gonna happen. What I have to do today is there are two 1-inch exits for the coolant from this engine. I've got to combine those into one pipe and then feed them into this really badass high pressure water pump that will be powered by the Haltech, and then connect them to the tubes. So that's the plan for the day. What I've got here is a bunch of tubing from Racetronics, who I'm hoping will become a sponsor at some point. And I've got a bunch of fittings that are dash 16 all the way around. So the plan is I'm gonna try to connect all this stuff together. Let me kind of show you the engine compartment and I'll show you kind of what we're gonna do. All right, so what I've done here is I've gotten some silicone bends that will mount, first of all, this one. To shoot it this way, I've got this little U tube, get it? And that's gonna mount, I'm gonna cut this thing up into everything I need, I think. I think I can get away with just this thing. That is then going to go to this bad boy, which is like a T joint. So it's gonna go from here, shoot over, fire into this little T, and then this thing is gonna end up having a dash 16 bung on the end of it that I'll weld on, and that's gonna take a soft hose and connect here to the water pump, which, check it out, I've mounted on this really cool carbon fiber thing. I just happen to have a big chunk of carbon fiber and I mounted it. So I have some fittings to go in here and in here. I've got this piece of coolant line that's gonna connect on that side. I've got one for the underside. So really, basically, the fabrication has to be this pipe. So let's start making things happen. I'll just put that right there. I need to cut this silicone hose. Lube it up a little. The lube show. Little silicone lube. Hey-o, get this in just enough, to about to there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this thing here-ish, because it needs to kind of curve up to mate with the T connection. There's a reason for that I'll show you probably in a subsequent video, but I've got to run my intercooler piping, and this is gonna make a little bit of space for me to do that. Let me get a Sharpie. All right, I'm gonna cut this off with my cutter offer. I'm gonna try to cut it a little long. Better long than short. I know, that's what she said. Okay. Okay. So this is here. This thing wants to, well, first of all, be a little more lubed up. Boomtown, boomtown. This pops into there. Oh yeah, totally perf. And then we weld this thing together. I've got this small 1-inch angle iron kind of set up as a little jig so I can weld tubing and it stays square. So all I have to do here is really just line up my marks, which are there. Then I'm going to clamp these things in so they don't move. And I can tack these together in the hopes that they don't warp or get wonky once they are fully welded. We got a nice little crossover here. Boom, rides over, cruises up into this thing, it's clamped. Now I've got to get it from here to here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit of hose here, or at least attach one of the fittings to this end, and then figure out sort of what my other end needs to be to weld it on. So I have what I hope here are the right fittings, which are, I think they're NPT, which have O-rings. And they go here. Beauty. And this bad boy go in like that. Oh, right on. Okay, here we are. So we go out of here. We go into my new tube where two tubes became one. This is somewhere where the weld joint was. Curves up just a little bit to grab this T, and then goes here to this AN fitting. And I think I got the wrong ones. I think this is a PTFE fitting, and I got the wrong kind of hose for it, so I'm gonna have to figure that out, but I wanted to check the routing. Into the high pressure water pump, and then connects here to the dime PSI hose that runs to the front of the car. And then underneath I have this fitting. I'm just going to put a little piece of hose right here and connect those bad boys together. This isn't threaded, is it? No. Just connect these two guys together, and that brings the cool water into the engine. Then I've got these two spots here. I'm going to plug this one, and then this one I'm going to use as the drain for my overflow tank that's going to be resting up here in the engine compartment. Okay, so I managed to get the bottom side all buttoned up. Just put a little piece of rubber tubing between the dime PSI hose and the block. I do have a bit of a kink in the dime PSI hose, so we may need to rethink that one and redo it, but it's there. Now at least I know what the routing is. I've also realized I don't have enough clamps to clamp the entire thing down, and I don't want to just use the Harbor Freight clamps that I have. They don't look very good. So I'm going to figure out what I need to do for clamps to get this whole lot completely clamped down and looking great. And I've got to probably get the right kind of hose from Racetronics. So, not quite done yet. I also need to get the overflow tank from Racetronics and do a couple of things. The engine block actually has a couple of holes that I have to plug, which you can either do, apparently by my research, by threading the hole and putting a plug in, or putting the correct size plug in and using JB Weld. So I may do the JB Weld route initially. Or I'll keep researching and see if I can just tap the thing and thread something in. But either way, that is what is going to be required to finish the entire cooling system. Once the cooling system is done, all I have to do then is run some oil to the turbos, and I can actually run the engine for some period of time and just see how everything is working. So that should be really, really exciting. Now, if you are one of the people that is into the Leistern engine swap, the Subaru engine swap, which I'm not sure if I mentioned, but should require, if all goes well, the way I hope, should require no drilling whatsoever into your car. It should be completely bolt-on without having to modify your car in the slightest. So if you're interested in that, hit me up at wrenchme@gmail.com, and I will send you the kind of whole build list and the pricing and all that stuff, okay? Thanks, you guys. You guys keep on rocking. We'll talk to you soon.